Now, when I first started writing about entrepreneurship, I came up with a definition of a startup that I thought was pretty good. It seemed pretty helpful to me to describe the kind of work I was doing and the friends I knew in startups that they were doing. And I said, a startup is a human institution designed to create something new under conditions of extreme uncertainty.
Because in the early days of any idea, it's impossible to distinguish between brilliant and crazy. Because it depends, the differences depend in subtle details on what's really true. Will customers engage in this behavior, and is it valuable for them to do so? So the only way to find that out, I believe, is to test those ideas empirically. So the lean startup is a scientific approach to entrepreneurship, where instead of asking the question we've all been trained to answer as engineers, as marketers, as product development people of any stripe, we're trained to say, how can I achieve the specification at minimum effort? We want to change that to say, how can I learn whether the vision is true with minimum effort? So it's a slight shift that says everything a startup does exists not to make money, not to serve customers, not to do anything except help us learn whether we're on the path to a sustainable business. What is the uncertainty we face as entrepreneurs? It's that we don't yet know who our customer is. We don't know what product they're going to want. We don't know what the business model is going to be. We only think we know. We hope we know. We pretend to know. We try to convince everyone in our vicinity to believe a very important fact as if it was true that is not, strictly speaking, actually true, which is that after we build all this cool stuff, then customers are going to want it. It's very handy. The original term to describe this was the reality distortion field. That was a phrase coined to describe Steve's talent. And the problem is, if you're sitting there in the reality distortion field, you might be asking yourself this question. Not you, but maybe you have a friend. Your friend might be asking this question, which is that I'm following a visionary who's got the reality distortion field, who can make people in their vicinity believe things as if they were true. They're not, strictly speaking, actually true. How do I know if I'm following the next Steve Jobs or I'm following a crazy person? Because there's another set of people who have the power of the reality distortion field, and we call them sociopaths. If you want to create a cult, it's very handy to be able to put on the black turtleneck and make up this field and then get people to believe things. So what do? Right? Should we put on a show about how visionary we are and we definitely can see the future? Or do we acknowledge that we don't yet know these things and our job as entrepreneurs is to find them out? It's not that quality isn't important. As in all modern product development methodologies, from agile to lean to code craftsmanship, all modern product development systems have quality deeply baked in as a core tenet. Here's the problem. If we don't know who the customer is, then we don't know what quality means. So what we need to do is find out what quality means so that we can apply these other methodologies.
There's something really cool going on in the world today. There, I think, are more entrepreneurs practicing right now than at any time in history. And the reasons for that are pretty simple. You got to go all the way back to our good friend Karl Marx. Okay? Karl Marx said that the people who have power in society are those who own the means of production, for those who remember from your European history class. And what Karl Marx didn't foresee, in fact, very few economists foresaw, is that we now live in an era where anyone who wants can rent the means of production for very, very little money. So it's not just that it's cheaper to get started, which is true, and especially true in e-commerce. But all of the elements you need, whether that's manufacturing capability, software production, distribution, access to customers, and of course, through platforms like Shopify, the ability to reach customers with a built-in e-commerce store all ready to go. Whatever capability you need, anyone in the world with a credit card and access to the internet can get it not just cheaper, but faster. If you think about what was required to build a new company even 10 years ago, certainly 20 years ago or more, think about all the different people you had to beg for permission. Right? You had to be able to manage the warehouse and the factory. Think about the distribution deals you had to sign with other companies, the advertising budgets you needed to get approved. Of course, in order to do all that expensive stuff, the venture capitalists you had to negotiate with, the potential partners you had to get permission from, the advertising agents, the publicists. I mean, it really adds up. Every one of those begging for permission moments has been transformed into the rentership of the means of production, the ability to run an experiment yourself without asking anybody say so. And that's what's making it possible for so many more people to become entrepreneurs today.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, but entrepreneurship has gotten cool all of a sudden. And that's not good. Entrepreneurship is not cool. Let's be honest. Entrepreneurship is boring. It's painful and humiliating, and you want it being wrong all the time. And that's not cool. So for those who understand what I mean, winter is coming. And we need to be ready for that. There's going to be a time when entrepreneurship will go back to being uncool and boring. And then we can really be focused on the things that are true about entrepreneurship, the things that actually allow us to create organizations of lasting value. Most of the products we build actually have no impact on anybody whatsoever. And we're used to making excuses for that. Well, we're taking a lot of risk, and failure is obviously part of risk. But things have changed. It's not like it was in the old days when if you wanted to build a company around a new product, you had to take dramatic technological risks. I mean, none of us are working on teleportation here.
The most important concept in the toolbox of entrepreneurial management is this really overused buzzword called the pivot. And certainly here in San Francisco, people are sick and tired of hearing about startups pivoting left and right. But it's such an important concept, that's why it's become jargon. A pivot is a change in strategy without a change in vision. That's it. When entrepreneurs get into trouble, they don't just give up and go home, but neither do they kind of persevere the plane straight into the ground through stubbornness. They're able to do this funny combination of things. That's why we use the analogy of the pivot. They can keep one foot rooted in what they have learned while changing one other thing about their business, something about the strategy. So maybe we had the right product but for the wrong customer. Maybe we had the right product but the wrong pricing. Maybe we had the right pricing and customer, but actually we solved the wrong problem with our product, or a whole bunch of other things that can go wrong. The reason that's such an important part of entrepreneurial management is that everything we do in a startup has to be geared towards learning that it's time to pivot a little bit sooner. See, if you look at the stories of successful entrepreneurs and compare it to the stories of unsuccessful entrepreneurs, contrary to what you see in the movies, the successful entrepreneurs did not have better ideas than the failed ones. Actually, we generally had equally bad ideas at the beginning. The first version of PayPal was digital cyber cash for PDAs. eBay was about selling Beanie Babies or Pez dispensers online. Remember how the Google founders were going to make all their money from selling those yellow search appliances in corporate environments? I mean, these original business plans, from our vantage point now, look just positively stupid. And in fact, so do the unsuccessful entrepreneurs. The difference is the successful entrepreneurs had the discipline necessary to pivot when it wasn't working, to change the strategy without abandoning the whole vision.